Good morning and welcome to First Friday Lunch. My name is Tina Holland, and if you are new to my channel, I am a romance author, and every first Friday of the month, I go ahead and I talk about all things personal, books, and then we have a hot topic. So we'll kind of go through this. As you may notice, I am not on camera today. The reason is because on Monday, I went to the eye doctor because I needed a new prescription and I haven't had my eyes checked in like 5 years. So, as part of my diabetes, I got to get that checked out. Well, during the inspection, they found that my dim- my so I had early stages of macular degeneration, and they found that my eyes had worsened, and so they gave me a shot in both eyes. That's and so I rather than wear makeup, they're like, you don't want to, the biggest risk is infection. So I'm trying to avoid having an infection. So I have like zero makeup on all this week. So I'll probably put it back on like Tuesday because then it'll have been a week and I think I'll be okay. But yeah, the procedure itself, it sounds scarier than it was, but it was actually pretty streamlined. So I'm not wearing makeup and I'm sitting in a different spot too. So mostly because I'm going to do some slides and I wanted to have my monitor bigger so I could see better. So anyway, so that's why I'm not on camera. Also, now we're in the holidays. If you are a writer and you are not already subscribed to the Writers and Garden newsletter, I did an article there on writing through the holidays. And I talk a little bit about how I normally take a break and stuff like that. But that leads me into my next thing of books. Oh, tomorrow we're going to go get our tree tomorrow. I'm very excited about picking up this Christmas tree. So we have a lake cabin and we have some woods behind us and we've got a tree picked out. So we're going to go get that tomorrow because the weather will be pretty decent. So it's going to be almost 40. That sounds cold to some of you if you're in the southern part of the United States or, the southern part of the hemisphere even. But we're going to go get a tree tomorrow. So I'm very excited about that. And I picked up most of my Christmas presents. I need to wrap them and I need to mail them off next week. I've got most of my Christmas cards done. Also doing that probably Saturday or Sunday. I'm not sure which one. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. But book wise, as I said, I wrote an article for Writers and Garden that came out on the 1st. And I talk how I normally take a break during the holidays. So in traditional publishing, they would traditionally take off the years. I don't know if this is true, but when I started and I was with a small press, it wasn't true of small presses, but in traditional publishing, they will basically take off us like middle of December all the way to the new year. Or they don't take queries. They're kind of not really working on anything. And it's basically to give everybody a break from the industry. And I've always done that. Like basically from Thanksgiving, I will go ahead and just take a break until the new year. I don't write as much. I probably don't do as much promo. I'm just very quiet because I'm just trying to enjoy the season. When I was let go from my corporate job, ironically, I was let go on November 30th. So I had the entire month of December, which was a lot more active than it had been. But even that year, I still slowed down quite a bit. I, decorated my house. I visited with family. I have less family now that my parents have passed. But I mean, I kind of kept through that routine. My children are grown up, moved away. So Christmas for my husband and I consists of logging on to Zoom Christmas morning and opening presents via Zoom, which we have been doing since they went away to college because my youngest went to school in Montana. My oldest went to school in Milwaukee. And so they were always there. And rather than have them try and make it back, I mean, if they could, great. But rather than have them, drive all the way back or try and get here, we just were like, stay where you are. So we have usually on Thanksgiving, we would do like a 10 o'clock call. And while I'm cooking and they're cooking, and because they've stayed outside of the area where I live, which is south of Fargo, North Dakota. And so it just makes sense that we would go ahead and just do stuff via Zoom. So when the pandemic hit and we were doing this, they're like, that's genius. I'm like, we have been doing this for years. because because it's just not worth it. I'm like, I don't want you trapped in an airport. I don't want something happening to your plane. I don't want you driving in a blizzard, because I live in blizzard country, and we have had quite a few. We haven't had as many Christmas Eve storms. We have had some, but seems like we get a lot of New Year's Eve storms, and that would be when they'd have to travel back to school or would be thinking about it or whatever. So I'm always just like, just stay where you're at. At least I know you're safe and you're well and everything. So as I said, I wrote this article, and normally I'm like, I try and write 200 words a day. But this year I'm going to try and up it, because I really do want to try and finish How to Love the Lord before the end of the year. And so I can get it out to an editor, I can get the cover art done for it, and just move that process along. Even if all I get done is the rough draft, I can at least move forward with the cover artist. So I've got it going through critiques, and I could probably get most of what I've got written critiqued before I send it to the editor, but we'll see, because it'll depend on when she can slot me in. Ideally, I'd like this to come out sometime in February, but I think that's really pushing. It's probably going to be March or April, but you never know. Maybe everything will move swimmingly and I'll get stuff done. I did do some writing with the Romance Writers Club they do daily sprints, and I did some writing with them. I think it was Black Friday, and even on Thanksgiving by myself, because my husband was down visiting his family in the Twin Cities. And I had managed to get like 2,000 words written, just over 2,000, like 2,400 or something like that in those 2 days. And that was like huge, huge. So I'm like, okay, I can do this. And one of them was a love scene, which I don't usually write my love scenes until the very end of the book. So I went ahead and did that. So that's like one knocked out. And I've got 2 others at least that I have to write. This one seems to be spicier than the first book. So, which we'll see. My editor, I don't know that my editor really likes the spicy stuff, because she's like, this seems like it's erotic. And I'm like, is it? I feel like I've read stuff in genre. I just got done reading Grace Calloway's newest book. And yeah, my stuff's not even this spicy. So it depends, I guess, a little bit, right? Okay, so I'd like to finish that. And then I am planning on doing an audio reading. And I was thinking about doing it either the 21st or of Snow by Any Other Name. That's that short story. And that was in my newsletter, if you got that at the beginning of the month here, or actually, and I think I sent it out Black Friday. And so I won't send the next one out until probably January 1st, maybe the 31st. We'll see. But I want to do a reading of Snow by Any Other Name, because I wanted to do one of these for Halloween for Chill of the Reaper. And then I didn't get it done. And so I was like, maybe I'll just do a live reading on YouTube, and then it'll be free and available to everyone, or at least people who have that link, right? So I was like, yeah, maybe I will do that. And then depending on how it goes, if it's cleanish, like the book is clean, but if it's clean, like the audio, maybe I can upload that to some places too. So we'll see. That's one thing. Or maybe I'll just keep it perma-free on YouTube and people can come out there and listen to it. So that's a thought. The other thing, the last thing that I was thinking of doing with that was either I'll do it on the 21st or I'll do it on the 24th. And I'm sort of leaning towards the 24th, because that's book flood. If you've never heard of Yoga Book Flood, I said that all wrong. I know I got to have it in front of me to say it correctly, but it's basically where people will exchange books with each other and you read them on Christmas Eve. My friend Jill at Words to Live by Bookstore in Moorhead, it has a huge display out on her Facebook page or whatever that she just put together. And some of the Moorhead Friends writing group's books are on there as well. I don't know if she's got any Tales of the Frozen North. That seems to sell really good this time of year because it's wintry tales. So maybe not that well up here because it's so cold. It hasn't been unseasonably cold. It's probably been normal cold. But I was watching the news last night, the weather last night, and they were saying that like last year this time, and it's like in the 20s, high teens, 20s kind of. But last year this time it was like 50, like like high 50s. And I was like, oh, that is like we almost didn't have snow last year. But anyway, so we do have snow this year, and I'm over it already because I like snow. I like a certain amount of snow because we like to cross country ski, but past that, I'm like, I'm over it. Just like I just need enough to like cover the grass and stuff so we can, tool around on our skis. But I over it past that, I'm like, I don't need like 4-foot drifts or 6 feet high drifts in the driveway. And we've been there. If you followed my Facebook, if you follow my Facebook, you've seen like the old school pictures of me standing with a drift behind me and the dog on top. So yeah, I don't need that much snow. So, all right. Well, let's get into probably what you all came here for, and that is to talk about AuthorNation. So I gotta get into this little slide. I hooked up I think for myself, I'm gonna buy like a splitter for my USB port because I have the microphone that hooks into the USB port, but then I also have like my mouse hooks in there. And yeah, I'm not I'm like going, oh, I don't have my mouse. I have to use the pad. And I was never that big into the pad. My husband loves it. And I'm always like, nope, gotta have a mouse. So what I'm going to talk about with AuthorNation is my day-to-day experience. And I'm literally going to go through some photos just so I can kind of remember what I liked about AuthorNation and what I would do differently. Not what I would do differently if I was them, because I don't run conferences. I don't know, but what I personally would do different and why you should or should not attend conferences. So let's see if I can just switch this. You're probably going to get like the bad icky shot of me while I think I can do this. Share this tab instead. There we go. Okay. So hopefully I'm sharing this tab. I got to pop over here to StreamYard and make sure that this is what you're seeing. Yes. Okay. So I have to go backwards maybe. I think this is the first day. Okay. Can I go over here? Yeah. Okay. Maybe this way. All right. Yeah. One more. All right, let's start with this one. So this is me getting delayed in Dallas Fort Worth on Sunday before I fly in. So, and I don't know what it is with Dallas Fort Worth. I always have problems in Dallas Fort Worth. I shouldn't say always. I've flown through there 4 times. My husband and I flew through there on our way to Vegas. Was it on a trip? I think we took a trip after 9/11, and we were on. We had the weirdest flight. It was like Dallas, Atlanta to Dallas, Fort Worth. Oh no, it was like Minneapolis to Atlanta to Dallas, Fort Worth to Vegas, and then back again. And on the way back, our this is like years and years ago. It was right after 9/11. And on our way back, our plane got hit on the tarmac, and like they took out the whole tail. And I remember we boarded, and I lost my driver's license. So this is like right afterwards. And I lost my driver's license, and I was like, I'm crying and I couldn't get on the plane. And then so they like boarded us, and then they deboarded us and put us on the other person's plane, and they were waiting. And then when I was going to Vegas this time, so I went Fargo to Minneapolis to Dallas Fort Worth to Vegas. Or no, I just went Fargo to Dallas Fort Worth to Vegas. That's right. So I just had the one hop. But I went there and they started delaying flights. And so I was like, our flight got delayed. And so I'm like moving down the carousel like it was like C13, C15, C17. So this was C15. And I think we still moved. I had been at C13, moved to C15, and then moved to C17. And as a side note, my ticket said before I even landed that I was going to be in B. So, I mean, it's just like that started off my thing. So when I got to Vegas, I was super late. I had already booked the Bell shuttle service, which I will say is great if you get there before 12:30. And I was like freaking out because was it 12:30? What time did I land? I landed like 1:00 Vegas time. No, they must be up until 2:30. I remember I was like really worried. I was freaked out that I was going to miss it. And I was like, I looked at my clock and the time hadn't switched yet. And so it said 3. And I was like, oh my God. Well, then I got there and I hadn't eaten anything. I managed to get to my shuttle. That was pretty expedient. There was like one lady, me, she was getting dropped off at the Flamingo. I was staying at the Horseshoe, and the guy dropped me off, and the check-in went really well. So that was all really good. But yeah, delayed. As in my world, my husband and I call that a Midwest vacation. So then Monday came and I volunteered for stuff because I was wanting to, these are just pictures of this vendor show that they had on Monday. And I volunteered because I wanted to basically get to know people. I didn't know anybody. I was like a newbie author. In some ways, I'm a newbie author because I don't keep up with the latest trends on what's going. So I kind of always have to start over when I go to publish. And I write so short, it's almost like readers are finding me for the first time every time I have a book release, or I don't write so short. I write so it takes me so long to write. That's what I meant to say. Anyway, so I volunteered to be I volunteered to be a volunteer. And so I ended up doing what the other volunteers call security, but isn't really security. And so but I ended up doing that at the vendor show. So I didn't get to spend a lot of time touring the vendors, but I walked around a lot and I got to see stuff. So I did get to see some stuff. So these are just some shots of the vendor show. And it's like one, and this is kind of the floor. And as you can tell, they have quite a bit of space, which was very, very nice. Now, this area was set up the next day, and Monday through Thursday had like a continental breakfast right underneath where these chandeliers were. They had coffee and not donuts, but they had like muffins and scones, and some fruit and like that. And then they had water stations too throughout the day. So that was actually quite nice doing that. So this is some shots of the vendor thing. And then I don't remember what this is. So then we get to, this is the speaking event. Oh yeah, this is like the opening speaking event that was, I think, Tuesday morning. And so I went to this, and then I still had to find my volunteer spot. And then they ended up double booking me for volunteers. So I was both security, which are these people that wear orange vests, and they're kind of like just help people figure out where they need to go and everything. And then also I was assigned to AV to be a timer for the speakers in the rooms. And so I was like, and the reason that happened is that they booked my real name or my author name as a timer and my real legal name as like this security, they call them room monitors, a room monitor. And so I was getting like double information before I went to the conference. I'm like, oh, I must just be a room monitor assigned to a room. No, that wasn't it. So then what ended up happening was I ended up volunteering to do room monitoring Tuesday through Thursday. And I was assigned to the gold room. And then, and there was a bunch of us assigned there, so I could go to some classes there. And they have kind of a captain of the team of the thing. And she was like, oh yeah, I'll be in this room pretty much all the time. And so there was me, her, and one other girl, and we were basically running that room. And so we were doing the timers and stuff like that. So that worked out really well. As a bonus, the volunteers got free lunch. So that was nice. That kept my pocketbook kind of tiny, that I didn't have to I didn't have to spend money on lunch and or breakfast because they had breakfast there every day. So that was really nice. So then I just had to spend money on my dinners or whatever. So which my Sunday night dinner was a scone and like $10 coffee. It's like, coffee is really expensive down there. So I was like, oh, that was a little spendy. So that's what I kind of did Tuesday through Thursday. This is the place I ate every day at Monday, like Tuesday through Thursday, Friday, maybe even Tuesday through Friday. I ate here at Tuesday through Friday, I ate here at this. It was called the Americano Cafe in Paris. This is a view, and it's super blurry. So I think I must have, like, they were bringing me dinner, and I got excited when I took the shot. So, which I do believe I took a picture of the same meal I had just because I liked it. And I was like, all right. So Um, this is just a picture of a, like, bar that I went by. So, my husband went hunting in Africa, and I'm like, "Look, I found a zebra." He's like, "Okay, no." Alright, this is the sphere, and I don't think the volume will go. This is like a video I shot. This is the room. This is what's outside my room, and I basically stayed at the Opinion Horseshoe, and right across the street is this is the parking ramp for that's the Flamingo right there, and I stayed there and, or I didn't stay there, but I stayed at the Horseshoe, and it was actually a pretty nice hotel because everything took place in the Horseshoe, and the Horseshoe is connected to Paris. So some people stayed at Paris and some people stayed, it's not quite, you can't quite see it, but further on down this strip, there's something called Ellis Island, and there were a few people that stayed there as well. So but yeah, I ended up sleeping okay considering I live in the country and it's super dark where I live. I ended up sleeping okay. I just pulled the first night I pulled the full shades, but I really like sun. Like that helps me stay on my clock. So I do like sunlight coming in because it kind of helps wake me up and stuff. So I just pulled the shades and it seemed quieter or whatever. So my 2 favorite things, I don't know which they have on the sphere here. That's like whatever, but my 2 favorite, I did take a picture of the one I like. There's like a Tiffany lamp style, and then in the morning when you would get up, that sometimes I don't know what time, I think it was pretty close to sunrise, but they used to have the little smiley face guy, and he he will, like, kind of yawn and wake up and look around. It's kinda cute. So, like, a couple times I caught him in the morning, but yeah. So this is the view from my room. These are some of the classes. I took a lot of classes on AI and I took a bunch of classes on finance and budgeting. And because I was a room timer, basically, I ended up taking a couple classes on advertising too, which I didn't mind. So yeah, this is just that. These are these are all those. This is my outfit that I wore for Rave, which was the book signing day on Friday. So that was the outfit I wore. That's my table. This is they had Perrier and then they had like the Caesar's bottled water because Binion, Horseshoe, and Flamingo are all part of the Caesars thing. This is some pictures at Rave. That's my table and that's another table, but this is kind of like this is like the romance aisle, and then right behind me is the romance aisle. Ironically, there's a lady sitting down with her back facing us. Her and I were supposed to be table mates, but because some people didn't show up, and I don't know, I kind of wonder if with how they set up Rave this year they would have people order their books online from their online bookstore. And so you would have like a stack of books at your table that people had ordered that you would basically just give them. They'd show you a receipt and that you'd give them the book. And so I think what it was is that was part of it. And I sort of wonder if people didn't have their books ordered through the bookstore, if they were maybe like, well, nobody ordered my book, so I'm not going to go. I was worried I wouldn't have anybody order my book, so I actually bought, through the signing store, I bought, How to Marry a Major, which you can kinda see on the table there. I'll maybe go back to the other one really quick because that might be easier to see. Um, I did the How to Marry a Major, um, and these tables, you can see one right behind this, Don Perignon thing. You can see one right behind there um that's not set up. So there were some like that this is me set up before anybody came in, but that was the table you got. And so you can see some people with the very fancy, like that black tablecloth way in the back, some very fancy ones. Morehead Friends Writing Group has one of these that is it's gray and it like will wrap around the table and it's very fancy looking. But I was like, well, I had to pack stuff in and pack stuff out for this. So I ordered my books through their bookstore, which also the readers could have ordered. And then I had 5 copies of How to Marry a Major and 5 copies of The Courtesan of Constantinople. I sold one of each at the thing. And then that little booklet that I have right behind me is it's a notebook or whatever, and I set it up so that people could have a free read if they signed up for my newsletter or if they just signed up for the free read. And what I did is I gave those people, I sent them a digital copy of how Snow by Any Other Name. So that's what I did. And I ended up getting like 20, 25 signatures for my newsletter. I think only one person opted out to not get my newsletter. So I was like, okay, which was ironic because she was the person that bought both of the books. So that was fine. But I think what happened is because this is the first time they've done it this way, that people were like, well, nobody bought my books through the signing store, so I'm just not going to show up. Or maybe flights worked out or somebody got sick or I don't know. But it seemed like there was a lot of vacant tables. So the lady that is kitty corner for me, her and I were supposed to be like half this table. And when she didn't show up, I like spread my shit out. I was like, I'm spreading out because it looks bad if you're just sitting in like a 2x4 space or whatever. So I was like, I'm just going to spread out. And I told them that I said, I'm going to spread out because I don't know where she is. And they're like, oh no, that's okay. And then she's like, I went over and talked to her because I had seen that she posted on social media that she was there. And I was like, we're supposed to be together. And she goes, I didn't think you showed up. And I'm like, I didn't think you showed up. So that worked out okay for both of us because we kind of got full tables for a half table price, but that worked out really well. So I did some writing and some promo stuff and checked my emails and stuff while I was there. So it wasn't totally boring. The thing with this rave was that it was very new. It was the first time they did it. And I think for authors, it was very confusing because they had two reader levels. There was like a $25 ticket level in which you would come and you got free books like right away. You got a tote with all these free books. It was like a white canvas tote. It was very nice. And then there was a free reader ticket. Like it was free and you got a tote that you would come in and it was blue, but it was kind of that papery, you know what kind I'm talking about. This is like papery mache kind of stuff. So those people got in for free. And I think if they had just let more people know there was the free option, we would have gotten far more readers. Now, interestingly enough, like 2 rows behind my table, so I'm that orange table, 2 rows, like there's another author table, but that other row is shared with like sci-fi, paranormal. And from what I heard, a lot of the science fiction guys sold out. And I don't know if they were through the bookstore, if they brought their own, because you could bring your own inventory too. There was a lady that I had met that had shipped books to the hotel and she was managing all of her own inventory. So I was like, oh, okay. So that worked out okay. They took care of the taxes side of it. You just had to let them know how much you sold and then you'd pay the taxes to the state of Nevada and whatever. So that worked out okay. But yeah, it was interesting because it was it was like first time doing it. I considered it a success because I'm still like in a lot of ways, I'm a newbie author and most of my stuff is shorter than this. So I don't ever have a ton of books with me. So I was like, well, I'm going as a romance author. So I'm going to bring these two books or whatever. So yeah, didn't sell out. Obviously I ended up bringing those back. And then they went into the Moorhead the Courtesan of Constantinople went into the Moorhead Friends writing group inventory for their events because Chris was like, I need more books. And I was like, okay, hold on. I'm doing an event. I'm sure I will have stuff come back with me. So, which was the other reason I only ordered 5 of each of those 2 copies because those are first in series. And then also I was like, well, then if I didn't want to have to haul back a ton of books. So this is my dinner that I had Monday through Friday. I had it Thursday night. I ended up going to my friend Rachel Wilder's for dinner. She made me macaroni and cheese. Her roommate's a chef, and she made macaroni, like 5 cheese macaroni and cheese or something, 5 mac and cheese. I don't know. Anyway, so that was really good. But this is rigatoni alla vodka, I think it's called. So, so good. But I was like, okay, it filled me up, didn't make me sick, all this other stuff. So that was a pretty decent meal. This is the sphere. This is the Tiffany lamp style. I loved this one, so I had to take a picture of it. And it's raining. You could kind of tell it's a little wet-ish, but yeah, it was raining, which I don't know how often you see that in Vegas, but yeah. And then, oh, okay. So before I get to the other stuff, one of the things that I met some people down there when I was doing classes on monitoring and stuff like that. I met Sarah Cannon, which I was just super pleased to have met her because I've taken her HB90 and I've taken her Publish and Thrive class. And she has a wonderful way of telling you about the business in a soft-hearted way, and of letting you know that basically any decision you make is not necessarily wrong. So it's I can't recommend her classes enough. If you have the money to take them, go ahead and do so. So the other person I met, I didn't meet, but I got to see her speak, was Joanna Penn, and I listened to her podcast quite a bit. And if you want to have a better understanding of AI and the future that's coming with AI, I highly recommend Joanna Penn. She was there. And then I took Aaron Wright did a couple classes on advertising or marketing without using ads, and that was fascinating. The other person that I sat in on her classes because they were in gold, which I was a timer for. And then Mark Lefebvre did a class also on getting in with booksellers and libraries, and he was in gold. And I love Mark Lefebvre as well because he is very knowledgeable on a lot of business stuff because he also works with Draft to Digital. So those are some of the classes that I took that I really recommended. If you are interested, you could probably still go out and buy the digital version because they did kind of an e-conference that I think is like $149, super cheap. Well, comparatively, right? Comparatively to a lot of stuff. So you might be able to go through and pick and see who you've got, who has speaking stuff. I believe like Aaron Wright's classes were recorded. One of Sarah Cannon's classes was recorded. I don't know if her gamification one was, but I know the one that I went to was. And then I'm sure Joanna Penn was recorded as well. So, and there were some panels. Some of those may have been recorded. So they also had romance author stuff as well. So let me see here now. Okay, and so then on Saturday, I ended up doing rave on Friday, and my ticket went an extra day. So on Saturday, I did some touristy stuff. So I went to the Flamingo where they have these gardens that you can go to for free. And then there's a hummingbird in this picture. You can barely see him. He's on the bottom of the feeder somewhere. I can't even see him in this one. So yeah, oh yeah, you could kind of see him, but he's blended into that cavey thing in the background. So and then I went to some art galleries that were in Caesar's Palace. I went to two there, and I went to one in Paris. So because they'll have like these art galleries where you can go in and buy art and stuff. And so I went and did that. And then also Caesar's had their Christmas trees up. So took pictures of the Christmas tree. Okay, so that is, let me go back here. That is basically my trip. So in the highlights of my trip. All right. So that was my day by day experience. I'm going to tell you what I liked and what I would do differently, and then why you should or should not go to conferences. So what I loved, they put out this paper schedule, which was very, very hard to read. I never figured out Eventi, which was, everyone was like, oh no, you got to do Eventi on your phone or your tablet or whatever next year because it really streamlined where you needed to go and all this other stuff. And I didn't do that. I did make myself a calendar on Google Sheets, and I was kind of following that, but I didn't print it out, so I didn't know where my rooms were and all this stuff. But they did put together this map, they put together a map, and they put together a like when the classes were, and then on the side like the day, and then what category they kind of fell under. Now, I didn't find that super easy to read, but about 4 days in, so I'm like, we're at Wednesday or Thursday. I find restaurants at a glance, and then like right in the front, it tells you kind of the cost, because that meal that I showed you all by itself was $25. plus tax and resort fee and whatever else, that you're paying for in Vegas. So it was like $25 all by itself. And then if you add on that you got, a cheesecake or coffee or anything other than water, yeah, it got to be kind of spendy, which like saved my bacon of going to the volunteer lunches and having that breakfast in the morning. So, because I didn't have to eat as much. But yeah, it lists like all the kind of nearby restaurants that are available in the front of this. And then there's a bunch of like advertisement stuff, and things like that. So that was really, really well done. So the amount of information that they emailed you about the events and everything coming forward, I got a lot of info like right before, including my volunteering things, but that maybe confused me more because I was like, oh, I'm assigned to this room. They're like, no, that's not how that works. So, but yeah, that was really nice. The different tracks was nice because it didn't matter where you were in author land, if you were a baby author or if you were a new author. I mean, like they had everything from the basics of kind of self-publishing to, and I will say this is totally geared towards independent / self-published authors. You could I did see, like I saw Kathy Maxwell there, and I'm not aware that she's independently published unless she's thinking about it. So, and then somebody was telling me there were some traditional authors that did the signing last year. So they could probably do it this year too, but they would have to bring in their own books. Like they had a rave set up through Lulu. So you would not have been able to, as a traditionally published author, you would not have been able to send your books to Lulu, right, to print for this event. So, yeah, the official travel guide, the amount of information given, the different tracks, and then they had a multi-genre style. So there was some romance, there was a romance meetup group, and there was also a romance panel. And I attended both of those, which was very interesting because you get to learn a little bit more about the business. The meetups, I think unless they were super organized, I think they just assigned a couple of people. Our meetup was a little, I don't want to say chaotic, but there wasn't any structure to it. Like some people thought it was going to be, we kind of just sat down at desks and talked. And I think maybe if there had been like a cocktail bar and maybe they had done some games or something, that would have made some people happy. I was fine with it. I did a lot of talking though. So I think that was worked okay. So then, like I said, the continental breakfast and coffee, they had that all Monday through Thursday. They didn't do it the day of rave, but they did Monday through Thursday. And like I said, there's coffee, tea, water, fruit like your basic oranges, apples, bananas kind of thing. And then they had like muffins and stuff like that. Actually, all I did is I brought breakfast bars with me in my suitcase, and I eat one of those every morning with like a banana or a piece of fruit and then coffee. And that was enough to get me through till the volunteer lunch. And then that was really nice. So those were the things that I liked. And then some stuff that I would change would be I might skip rave next year. It depends. It depends. So was the answer, right? It depends. But mostly because I'm not a big seller I'm not a big name. So I don't know that I get my money's worth. I did this year mostly because I got like a table for half price, but the table was like $149. Was it $149? I don't remember. Maybe it's 150, 110. I don't remember. It was like $100, give or take $100, whatever. And then I would leave earlier. I don't know that I need that whole day Saturday. Like I said, my friend Rachel Wilder lives in Vegas, and I got to spend Thursday with her, but she was working on the Saturday or whatever, and so and she would pick me up to bring to her place for dinner, which was eventful. And but on Saturday, yeah, so that I was walking around, and then I went back to my hotel for the craft call that we have. We have a weekly craft call, Writers on Garden does. And so I went to that. And then maybe I would stay at the Paris or Flamingo. I don't know. It was pretty nice to be in the Horseshoe. because that's where the conference was. So I would be avoiding a walk, I guess, every morning and every evening. But I've always wanted to stay at the Flamingo, so I might price out those two hotels. I don't know that I would stay at Ellis Island because that is kind of a hoof and it's outside even. So, and on some pretty heavy traffic streets. So, because it's right on Flamingo Drive there. And I don't know that I would stay there, but I might stay at Paris or Flamingo. So, and I would network more. I didn't, I volunteer less because I ended up working the vendor show and I ended up working for the security or the orange vest people Tuesday and Wednesday night. And so I did timer all day, Tuesday all day, Wednesday, and then I ended up working security. They call the other volunteers call them security, but you see like the actual security guys, and we're like, we're not security. But I think it was literally we wore these like yellow vests, and I think it was so that the other conference goers basically knew how to navigate through, like, where's this room, where's that room, have they started this, where are the bathrooms, all that kind of stuff. So it was that, and to make sure that people had badges for the evening events. So the evening events were I didn't go to any of those. I don't know that I would have if I hadn't been already volunteering to do the security. Or maybe I would do that security again too, because I'm not sure that I would go to. Oh, I met Carissa Andrews too. She's a podcaster I like to listen to as well. And I didn't get a chance to stop by her vendor table because I was already working that. So I can't think of, but one was like Story Wars, and another one was Kevin Smith was actually there on Thursday, and I didn't go see Kevin Smith because I was having dinner with Rachel. And so I was like, no, I'm not going to go. Plus, the other thing was I wasn't sure that I wanted to be in that big of a crowd. So I'm an extrovert. I get a lot of energy being around people. But one of the things I liked about this conference is it was small. If you've ever been to like an RT conference, and those got to be rather large, this was small by comparison, but it is pretty big for like an indie author one. It's one of the bigger ones. And I think that while I love even like there was a lot of space between the walking aisles for the rave event. So, and even the vendor event, there was a lot of space, like aisle space, because you don't always have that. Sometimes you're like packed in like cattle. And so that was really nice. But I think that I would thought that the Kevin Smith event would probably be very, very packed. The other thing is I think it might have been recorded, so I might watch his speech on Rewind if they did record it. They may not have. Like they may not have been allowed to. So that was something that I would do, is volunteer less, maybe. So I'd either also so I could have more downtime, because I do need a little bit of downtime, not a lot, but a little bit. And then network more. Like maybe I would have spent more time with romance authors, or maybe I would have spent more time or tried to find connections. Ironically, I met a lady from North Dakota who's like 20 minutes away from me. Like, it amazes me sometimes that I go, and I met another guy from North Dakota, like two people from North Dakota, but he was in Medora on the other side, which is on the other side of the state. And I was like, wow, that's like crazy that I met these two people in Vegas from North Dakota at a writer's conference. So, I think he wrote science fiction, and I don't know that he was published though. I'm not sure. So, but yeah, it was good. It was good. So one thing why you should attend conferences, networking. I just got done talking about that. Like you could meet people that live 20 miles away from you. And then continuous learning. Like this business is always changing, like especially around AI, new things that come up, like Ream wasn't a thing like 10 years ago. Audiobooks weren't as big as they are now. And now too, there's people that are making games out of their books. There's all this technology coming up that we have to learn about so that our businesses can grow. Or, I mean, you can say stagnant, but you can only sell so much into once people buy your book, they're not going to buy your book again. But yeah, there's continuous learning things around like the new Like Ream was there, Book Funnel was there, Draft to Digital was not there. I wish they had been, but there were a bunch of those kinds of Amazon and Ingram were there. And so there's a bunch of continuous learning about what's coming up in publishing. There were a lot of audiobook people and narrators there. And there were obviously like were tax account people that I went to. The way you do ads has changed. One of the things that came up in the romance meetup was like, what are people doing with Vela? Where are they moving? Because the people had all these stories on Vela, and that just tanked. It just ended, like I think in December, so like the beginning of this month. So you can build fans. I like I said, I got 20 people signed up on my newsletter list. Whether they'll stay on there or not, it's hard to say. But some people, like these sci-fi guys, they did sales. They did a ton of sales. And the other thing is to remember, the last thing to remember is there are always virtual options. You have these conferences, and many of them, like Romance Author Mastermind, this one, AuthorNation, they also have virtual options. And in the case of AuthorNation, the virtual option is actually cheaper. But I know some people that are like, they're scared to get out of a plane. They're scared to, number of people at a conference can be overwhelming. So they would prefer the virtual option, or maybe they do the virtual option because they're not feeling well. They're, sick or something. So the nice thing about the virtual option for me is that I can go to the sessions that I couldn't go to. So that's going to be nice. So when I think that comes out next week sometime, they'll be mailing us the digital versions of those. So, all right. Last thing is, do you guys have any questions? Maybe not. I did do a lot of talking. So, but if you guys have any questions at all, you can put them in the comments section and I can pull them up. So I'll just give you like 5-10 minutes. It doesn't look like it. Looks like everybody's quiet. They don't have any. Oh, no, I'm at 47 minutes. Wow. That is a long time. Well, while we are waiting for somebody to post a question, and if you don't, that's totally okay. You can post them later and I'll do my best to answer them. Our next first Friday lunch is going to be on January 3rd at 11:30 a.m. So no questions? No questions. All right. So yeah. Our next First Friday lunch is January 3rd at 11:30 a.m. So go ahead and pencil me in for lunch.